The Robinson family got lost in space.
Yeah, the series was set in the far future, 1997.
1997.
Do you have a name?
My name's Will Robinson, sir. And I'm not a toy, I'm a boy.
Oh, nonsense, nonsense.
So, you think you know every detail about the Robinsons' journey? I bet you've only scratched the surface. For over half a century, across 3 very different versions, Lost in Space has hooked audiences with its mix of family adventure, sci-fi wonder, and the constant threat of, well, being lost. You know the catchphrases, you know the characters, and you've probably seen every episode. But did you know that some of the show's biggest secrets have been hiding in plain sight for decades? That the most memorable character was never even supposed to be in the show? And that the entire franchise is connected by a web of hidden details and inside jokes that only the most dedicated fans have ever spotted? Stick around, and you'll discover why a beloved character was almost written off after just a few episodes, how the 1998 movie pulled off a stunning visual with clever practical effects instead of CGI, and the incredibly subtle nod to a real-life astronaut in the Netflix series. We're breaking down the most cleverly hidden details and Easter eggs from all 3 versions of Lost in Space that you almost certainly missed. By the end of this, you'll see the Robinsons' journey in a completely new light. To really get the legacy of Lost in Space, we have to go back to the beginning. It's 1965, and creator Irwin Allen decides to take the classic 1812 novel The Swiss Family Robinson and shoot it into the cosmos. The show was planned as a serious space adventure, a story about survival against all odds. But, as we all know, it became something else entirely. It turned campy, colorful, and completely unforgettable, mostly thanks to 2 characters who weren't in the original plan at all. Believe it or not, the 2 most iconic figures in the entire Lost in Space universe, the cowardly Dr. Zachary Smith and the beloved robot B-9, were nowhere to be found in the unaired pilot, no place to hide. The original concept was a straight-up survival drama focused only on the Robinsons and their pilot, Major Don West. Their ship wasn't even the Jupiter 2, it was the Gemini 12. That pilot showed the family crashing on a bleak planet after a meteor storm, fighting giant Cyclops monsters, and battling the elements. It was pure sci-fi adventure, but after seeing the pilot, CBS execs and Irwin Allen felt something was missing. They needed a recurring villain, a source of conflict to stir the pot each week. And so, Dr. Zachary Smith was born, a saboteur for a foreign power who gets trapped on the ship he was trying to destroy. And with Dr. Smith came his mechanical sidekick, the robot, reprogrammed for chaos. These additions completely changed the show's chemistry. The ship was redesigned and renamed the Jupiter 2, and to save money, huge chunks of the pilot were actually re-edited and used in the first few episodes of the series. It's a classic case of behind-the-scenes meddling that accidentally created a pop culture phenomenon. Without that change, we never would've heard the immortal line, "Danger, Will Robinson." When Jonathan Harris was cast as Dr. Smith, the gig was supposed to be temporary. He was written as a pure, dastardly villain who was meant to be killed off within a few episodes. That's why, if you check the credits for the entire series, he's listed as a special guest star. He was never an official member of the main cast. But Harris had other ideas. He found a straight-up villain boring and one-dimensional, and he figured the audience would get tired of him fast. So, he started improvising. Harris began rewriting his own lines, injecting the character with a flamboyant, cowardly, and over-the-top personality that was way more comedy than menace. He came up with all of Smith's signature alliterative insults for the robot, calling him a bubble-headed booby and a tin-plated tattletale. Those were all Harris's creations. As the first season went on, Lost in Space found itself up against the super-popular, and very colorful Batman series. Seeing the success of Batman's campy style, Owen Allen decided to lean in. He didn't just approve of what Harris was doing, he encouraged it. According to set legend, Allen stormed onto the set one day, pointed at Harris, and yelled, "I know what you're doing. I want more of it." And just like that, Dr. Smith, the temporary bad guy, became the show's central character, a love-to-hate anti-hero whose schemes drove the plot from season 2 onward. The show basically became the Dr. Smith and Robot Comedy Hour, a huge departure from its serious sci-fi roots, but a move that made it a TV legend. While the show later became famous for its goofy aliens and silly plots, there was nothing cheap about its start. Irwin Allen, despite getting a reputation for being a penny pincher later on, spent a fortune on Lost in Space. The Jupiter 2 spaceship was, at the time, the most expensive television set ever built, with a reported cost of $350,000 in 1965. That's over $3 million in today's money. This wasn't just some flimsy cardboard, it was a fully realized, two-story marvel with a flight deck, living quarters, labs, and that awesome spiral elevator. The attention to detail gave the show a cinematic feel that was rare for TV back then. Allen also hired top talent, including Robert Kinoshita, the designer of Robbie the Robot from the classic film Forbidden Planet, to design the show's robot B-9. This early commitment to quality is a huge reason the show's look still resonates with fans. If you know the classic show, you know the theme music from the second and third seasons, that bold, brassy score that gets you pumped for adventure. What most people don't realize is that it was composed by a 33-year-old musician who was years away from being a household name, John Williams. Back then, he was often credited as Johnny Williams and was just starting to make his mark in television. His work on Lost in Space was a taste of the legendary film. Scores he would later create for Star Wars, Jaws, E.T., and Indiana Jones. It's a fantastic piece of trivia that connects this classic show to some of the biggest movies ever made. Even the most die-hard fans and the cast themselves agree on one thing: the Season 3 episode, The Great Vegetable Rebellion, is probably the absolute low point of the entire series. The plot is exactly as weird as it sounds. The Robinsons land on a planet ruled by a giant, talking carrot named Tybo, who wants to turn the crew into celery people. The episode is infamous for being completely bonkers. Guy Williams, John Robinson, and June Lockhart, Maureen Robinson, were reportedly so embarrassed by the script they could barely say their lines without cracking up. In fact, after this episode, Guy Williams was so fed up with the show's silly direction that he would allegedly just come to the set, say his lines, and leave immediately. Even Jonathan Harris, who loved the campiness, thought this one went too far. There's even a story that the episode was almost weirder, with a live llama on set, but it wouldn't stop spitting at everyone and had to be cut. Irwin Allen was a master at stretching a buck, and his sci-fi shows often shared more than just a producer. If you've got a sharp eye, you'll notice that props, sets, and even costumes from Lost in Space were constantly recycled in Allen's other shows, like The Time Tunnel and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. The jetpack from the unaired Lost in Space pilot later popped up in Voyage. Computer consoles, alien suits, and ray guns would frequently jump between series, creating a sort of unofficial Irwin Allen universe. It was a smart way to save money that has since become a fun game for fans, spotting the familiar items in different sci-fi worlds. In 1998, Lost in Space hit the big screen with an $80 million budget, a cast featuring William Hurt, Gary Oldman, and Matt LeBlanc, and a goal to update the classic for a new generation. The film went for a much darker and more serious tone, closer to the original unaired pilot than the campy show it became. While reviews were mixed, it was a visual feast with some groundbreaking effects and its own set of secrets. One of the biggest changes from the series was the whole reason for the mission. In the 60s show, the Jupiter 2 was a U.S. mission to colonize Alpha Centauri. The 1998 movie, however, frames it as a desperate, last-ditch effort to save all of humanity. Earth is on the verge of total ecological collapse, making the colonization trip a global necessity. This immediately raises the stakes, turning the Robinsons from explorers into the potential saviors of mankind. It's a small but powerful shift that reflects the anxieties of the late 20th century, moving from Cold War rivalries to fears of environmental catastrophe. the filmmakers made a real effort to honor the original by bringing in several of the original cast members for cameos. Mark Goddard, the original Don West, plays the general who briefs the new Major West. Marta Kristen, the first Judy, appears as a reporter. June Lockhart, the original Maureen, is the principal of Will's school in a hologram. And Angela Cartwright, the original Penny, also shows up as a journalist. The only main cast member who turned down a cameo was Jonathan Harris, the original Dr. Smith. He was offered the role of the global seditionist who hires Smith, but he refused, famously saying, "I am Dr. Smith." He felt no one else could play that part. The 1998 film was a huge deal for visual effects, but one of its most memorable shots was a masterpiece of practical filmmaking. There's a scene where Matt LeBlanc's helmet retracts and assembles around his head. It looks like a complex CGI animation, but it wasn't. According to the VFX team, they pulled it off with a clever camera trick. The shot was filmed twice. Once with LeBlanc wearing the full helmet, and again without it, with him performing the exact same motions. Then, in post-production, the artists digitally combined the two shots, animating matte paintings of the helmet pieces to create the illusion of them flying into place. It's a fantastic example of old-school movie magic working hand-in-hand with new technology. The film's wildest departure from the original was its dive into complex ideas like time travel. The plot has the Jupiter 2 discovering a wrecked version of itself from the future. This leads to a mind-bending climax where the current Will Robinson meets a bitter, future version of himself who's been trying to build a time machine to prevent the crash, but the weirdest twist by far involves Dr. Smith. After getting scratched by a strange alien spider, he slowly and grotesquely transforms into a monstrous spider-like creature. This Spider Smith becomes the film's ultimate villain. A far cry from the bumbling, comedic saboteur of the TV show. These dark themes of time paradoxes and body horror were a bold move, and while some fans felt it strayed too far from the family-friendly vibe, it definitely made the movie unforgettable. The movie also introduced a new alien sidekick, a cute, monkey lizard creature named Blop. While he was all over the marketing and toy shelves, his role in the actual film is surprisingly small. Blop was brought to life with motion capture and puppetry by Jim Henson's Creature Shop, but many of his scenes ended up on the cutting room floor to improve the movie's pacing. If you owned the toys, you were probably surprised by how little screen time he got. For those who want to see more, you can find Blop's deleted scenes on the DVD and Blu-ray releases. For those who had the 1998 movie on DVD, the disc itself held a few secrets. On the special features menu, there was a trivia game, and if you got a perfect score, you unlocked a hidden blooper reel. Even better, hidden in the cast and crew bios were secret trailers for other movies. If you navigated to William Hurt's entry, you could find a trailer for the sci-fi classic Dark City, and under Mimi Rogers' entry, there was a trailer for Austin Powers. It was a fun, interactive way for fans to explore the home release that were just getting started, and as you can see, every version of this incredible franchise is packed with secrets. If you're enjoying this trip down the Lost in Space rabbit hole, go ahead and hit that like button, it really helps us out. And while you're there, let us know in the comments, which version of the Robinson family is your favorite? The classic crew, the gritty movie team, or the modern Netflix family? We'd love to hear what you think. Now, back to the secrets.in 2018, Netflix launched a brand new, visually stunning, and critically acclaimed version of Lost in Space. This series brilliantly mixed the serious, high-stakes tone of the original pilot with the family-first heart of the classic show, all while being loaded with clever Easter eggs and loving tributes. It quickly became a goldmine for sharp-eyed fans. This might be the single greatest Easter egg in the entire franchise, a perfect nod that brings the story full circle. In the Netflix series, the conniving Dr. Smith is a woman named June Harris, played by Parker Posey, who steals a doctor's identity to escape the doomed mothership. But who is the real Dr. Smith? In a chaotic scene in the first episode, we see a wounded man in a corridor. As June Harris approaches, you can see his name tag, Dr. Z. Smith. She steals his jacket and his identity, leaving him behind. That man, in that brief but critical role, is none other than Bill Mumei, the actor who played the original Will Robinson. So, in a brilliant bit of casting, the original Will Robinson becomes the true Dr. Smith of the new universe. The cameo is so fast that a lot of people missed it. But the show gives you another chance. Later, when another character finds the real Dr. Smith's ID card, we get a clear photo of Bill Mumei. It's a perfect tribute that honors the show's history in the cleverest way possible. The creators of the reboot clearly did their homework, hiding deep-cut references in the character names. The villain's real name, June Harris, is a direct shout-out to two of the original show's most important actors, June Lockhart, Maureen Robinson, and Jonathan Harris, Dr. Smith, but the references get even deeper. We briefly meet Don West's mechanic partner, a character named Tam Soderquist. This name is a mashup of two incredibly obscure references. Tam comes from the Space Family Robinson comic book series that actually inspired the original TV show. The last name, Soderquist, is the birth name of Marta Kristen, the actress who played the original Judy Robinson. It's a reference so specific that only the most obsessive fans would ever catch it. The Netflix series has a beautiful, sweeping score. But listen very closely to the opening credits. A few seconds in, the music seems to bend and distort for just a moment. That warp is actually a brilliant homage. For that split second, the new score morphs into the iconic, adventurous theme from the second and third seasons of the 1960s show, the one composed by John Williams. It's a musical Easter egg that's easy to miss, but once you hear it, you can't unhear it. The Netflix series doesn't just honor its own fictional history, it also pays tribute to the real history of space exploration. The opening credits are filled with archival NASA footage. In a flashback, Maureen Robinson's office walls are covered with famous photos from space history, including Ed White's first American spacewalk, but the most specific reference comes from a real-life astronaut. In one episode, Don West is temporarily blinded when the anti-fogging agent inside his helmet leaks into his eyes. This is based on a terrifying incident that actually happened to Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield during a spacewalk on the International Space Station. Hadfield was also blinded by the same solution and had to vent oxygen from his suit to clear his vision. It's a shockingly accurate detail that grounds the show's sci-fi dangers in real-world peril. The original robot was just a utility machine. The movie's robot was a protector. But the Netflix series blows the lore of the robot wide open. Here, the robot isn't human-made but is part of a mysterious race of sentient alien machines. This race has its own language and a complex history. We learn their motive for being hostile. The humans on the mothership Resolute stole their advanced star drive technology, which the robots see as a profound violation. The show adds new layers, transforming the robot from a simple sidekick into a key piece of a much larger galactic puzzle. In the original series, Penny Robinson adopted a space chimp with pointy ears that made a bloop sound, and she named her pet Debbie. In a hilarious and clever nod, the Netflix series gives Don West a pet chicken that he names, you guessed it, Debbie. It's a funny, slightly absurd tribute that swaps one animal sidekick for another but keeps the name alive as a wink to longtime fans. The reboot's writers drew heavily from the darker, more serious tone of the original show's first few episodes. But they also included direct visual homages. In the Netflix version, there's a tense scene where Will Robinson has to float untethered in space to fix a jammed door on the Jupiter 2. This is a direct visual tribute to an almost identical scene from the unaired 1965 pilot, No Place to Hide, where the young Will also had to perform a dangerous, untethered spacewalk. One of the boldest and best changes in the reboot was casting a woman, the incredible Parker Posey, as Dr. Smith. This wasn't a gimmick, it was a deliberate choice to create a more complex, manipulative villain. As Posey explained, in the show's future, there's no question about women's capabilities, so they could move beyond the bumbling male villain trope. Her character. June Harris isn't just a saboteur, she's a master of psychological warfare, using charm and deceit to survive. This makes her a far more insidious and modern threat than the comically inept Dr. Smith of the original. Across 6 decades and 3 major reinventions, the story of the Robinson family has endured. It's shifted from a black-and-white survival story to a campy classic, a dark blockbuster, and a modern, emotional epic. What's clear is that this franchise is layered with an incredible amount of hidden history, loving tributes, and clever secrets, from the last-minute additions that created TV icons to the real-life astronaut scares that inspired key scenes. Lost in Space has always been more than just a story about a family lost among the stars. The fact that Bill Mumei, the original Will Robinson, could come back to become the real Dr. Smith in the reboot says everything about the franchise's incredible, enduring legacy. So the next time you rewatch any version of Lost in Space, keep your eyes peeled. You now know some of the deepest secrets hidden aboard the Jupiter 2. What other details have you noticed? Did we miss a favorite Easter egg of yours? Let us know in the comments, and if you want more deep dives into the secret histories of your favorite shows and movies, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell. You won't want to miss what we uncover next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.